Welcome to Zombie City Lesson 2. The three of them got out of bed very early. They started packing everything since dawn. They filled the fuel tank and took fuel. Larry checked the copter for the last time. No, there is no problem. Of course, there should be no problem. The new copter. Very expensive. All the equipment is of high quality. The engine is also very powerful. Even then, since the journey is very long, it is better to be a little more careful. They left Santander around 8 in the morning. They have to go 700 miles away. If you fly at a speed of 150 miles per hour, it will not take more than 5 hours. Shakib sat in the pilot's seat from the beginning. Larry sat next to him, so that he could give Shakib advice at the right moment. But Shakib shouldn't have to. He drives quite well. He might even get his license soon. Luke sat in the back. He was listening to music with his headphones in his ears and his eyes closed. An hour later, they left California. They flew over the Atlantic Ocean. Below was a vast expanse of water. It looked as if it had been covered with a blue sheet. The sheet was swaying in the wind. It was creating long waves. The big white ships looked like small boats. They were cutting through the vast expanse of water and moving forward. Luke was asleep, but he still had his headphones in his ears. Music was playing. Larry was looking down through the window. He was watching the sea. Meanwhile, Shakib was becoming inattentive again and again. He was trying to give full attention to flying the copter, but he couldn't. Sometimes he was lost in the realm of imagination. He was wandering around in that realm. There, Rafim, Nina, Emma, Carrie, Linda, Meme, Zarin were all there. Oh, if they had been on this journey, it would have been much better. Shakib regretted it, but there was nothing else to do. He felt bad. He pressed the button and started the music. He started listening to Alan Walker's Faded song. Larry finished watching the sea. He looked at Shakib. "How are you feeling?" Shakib smiled at him. He shook his head. "It's good, but I miss them a lot. My friends? Don't you miss Emma?" A mischievous smile appeared on Larry's lips. Shakib felt embarrassed, but he quickly got over it. He said, I do. Maybe I do a little too much. I miss her a lot too. Kiara Tremaine. What should I do? I didn't get the leave. Luke had requested the Air Commodore to give Kara the leave instead of him, but he wouldn't listen. Shakib couldn't find anything to say. He remained silent. Meanwhile, Larry also fell silent. He didn't say anything else. He lowered the seat and stretched his body on it. Before closing his eyes, he told Shakib, "If there is any problem, call me." Shakib shook his head slowly. He didn't say anything. Larry was lost in the land of sleep. Luke was already asleep. Loneliness engulfed Shakib. Nothing could be heard except the monotonous rattling sound of the rotor. The music had stopped long ago. He didn't play it anymore. Shakib started to feel extremely bored. He didn't feel like flying the copter anymore. He wanted to lie down on the soft bed and give Jampesh a nap, but that was no longer possible. He tried to understand the great responsibility that rested on him. At this moment, if there was a slight mistake, all three of them would die. So, no matter how bad it felt, there was nothing he could do. He focused on controlling the copter again. It went on for a while longer. After a while, Shakib's body started to shake. He almost closed his eyes from exhaustion. He couldn't hold his attention any longer. He stretched his body over the seat. He closed his eyes. A kind of sleepiness came over him. He immediately jumped up and sat up again. Looking down through the windscreen, he was shocked. They were flying over a city. How was that possible? They had been flying over the sea a little while earlier. So when did they get here? He glanced at the GPS. Then he felt a second shock. There was nothing on it. The white screen was just flashing. much like what happens on a TV screen when a dish line goes out. Shakib was scared. He called Larry. Larry was annoyed at being woken up from a deep sleep. He could tell by the crease between his eyebrows. What happened?" Larry said in a sleepy voice. "Look down." Larry frowned again. "What's down?" he said, looking down through the window. He was surprised. Suddenly he looked up again and looked at Shakib. "Where are you from?" "I don't understand that. The GPS isn't working either." "What do you mean?" Larry had lost his sleep. He looked at the GPS. It was the same as before. "How did this happen?" "I don't know," Shakib replied indifferently. "It happened in a hurry." Meanwhile, Luke woke up to their conversation. "What happened?" he asked. They told him everything. Luke's face lit up after hearing everything. He looked down through the window. "Hey, Shakib, come down a little." Shakib looked at Larry. Larry was also looking down through the window. Come down a little," he said too. Shakib looked down through the windscreen. As soon as his eyes fell on the road, he saw hundreds of people walking along the road like crazy. They didn't look like normal people. Shakib was suspicious. He was sure Larry and Luke had the same suspicion. That's why he was asking to come down. Shakib came down. He started flying right above the heads of the tall buildings. He looked down again. As he had suspected, not hundreds, but thousands of zombies were roaming the road. The sound of their groans could be heard above the clatter of the rotors. "Where did I come from?" Luke exclaimed. "This is a zombie country. It doesn't seem like there are any good people." Sigh, said Larry. He looked at Shakib. "Where did you get that from?" Shakib started to feel guilty. It seemed like he was responsible for this. Why did he go to relax a little then? I don't understand anything," he said again. His throat tightened in fear. Without saying anything, Larry picked up the radio speaker. He put the headphones in his ears and turned on the radio. "Hello? Hello? Hello?" Nothing could be heard on the radio except a humming sound. He started changing frequencies, but he couldn't catch any channel. Finally, he gave up and put the speaker away. "Damn, this is gone too. What started with us?" He turned to Shakib. "Anyway, this isn't a moment. We need to get out of here quickly. How do I feel flying here? If I fall into those zombies, oof." Larry's eyes closed in fear as he thought about what the zombies would do to them. Shakib started to lift the copter up. Suddenly, the roof of a building caught his attention. When he arrived, it wasn't the roof, but two children. They were trying to get the copter's attention by waving their hands and shouting. Surely the two children were trapped in this zombie city. Larry and Luke also saw them. A moment later, 3 more people were seen there. 2 boys and 1 girl. They were a little older. All 3 were wearing army uniforms. They were also trying to get their attention by waving their hands. "They must be trapped," Shakib said, turning to Larry. Larry shook his head slowly. "But there's nothing we can do," he said in a nonchalant manner. "Are we going to leave them here in this danger?" Even if it feels bad, we have to do this." "Can't we help them?" "Not for now." Shakib didn't say anything else. They really had nothing to do now. What would they do? There was no way they could take 7 more people in a 3-seater copter. Besides, they were in danger too. Still, Shakib wanted to go to them. This city, he really wanted to know the secret of the zombies. He told Larry that. Larry refused. He said, "No need. It turns out that if we go there, they will leave us there and take the copter. Then we will be in danger." But why would they do that? In times of danger, people often lose their sense of humanity. Then they become violent. They do whatever they can to save themselves. We have to go through situations like this too. Right, Luke? Larry looked back at Luke, hoping for support. Luke shook his head. Maybe something like that. Shakib didn't say anything else, but he couldn't bear to leave 7 people in danger like that. But what else could he do? He had to start turning the copter. Suddenly, there was a loud noise. It wasn't the sound of the rotors. It was some other sound. Before he could understand anything, the copter started turning like clockwork. Shakib couldn't understand anything. He tried desperately to regain control of the copter, but it didn't work. The copter started turning and descending. Larry couldn't understand anything either. Suddenly, Larry's eyes fell on the fuel gauge meter. He was surprised as he looked. The meter was dropping down unusually. "How is this possible?" Larry muttered. "With the amount of fuel I took, I could fly at least 1,000 miles. How did the fuel run out so quickly?" Meanwhile, despite his best efforts, Shakib is unable to control the copter. Larry is lost in his own thoughts. Luke comes up from behind and grabs Shakib's hand, but it doesn't work. The copter starts falling down. Meanwhile, the zombies are looking up after hearing the sound, waiting for them to fall.